So welcome to the Manhattan Developmental Disabilities Council meeting. A little shift in our schedule to accommodate the holiday week next week. So now we will be recording this, so we will have it available on the Manhattan DD Council website for future viewings and reference. We'll start, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Kelly from AHRC New York City, and I chair this council. We'll start with general announcements, and if hopefully we're all Zoom pros, and we'll use the raise hand feature if you have an announcement to make. So if you want to raise your hand, we'll start with that. So, Johanna?
Yes, good morning. Johanna Santana, Director of Family Support Services at Synergia. I wanted to announce that we have availability for family reimbursement, evaluations, and non-Medicaid case management. Any other service related to family support, you can feel free to contact me and I can guide you through the different programs and services we have. I'm going to put my information in the chat. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Jacqueline?
Good morning. I'm with the New York State Institute on Disability. We also have family support funds available for reimbursement. We provide, we previously used to do just camp, but now we have extended that we can provide reimbursement for goods and services as well. I will put our information also in the chat and a copy of our application. If anybody is interested, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements? If you don't have access to the raise hand, Wendy?
Good morning, all. My name is Wendy DeLeon. I am the Director of Housing Assistance Services Program at ADAPT Community Network. I just wanted to let everyone know ADAPT Community Network offers a variety of services, including housing assistance, family reimbursement, home modifications, ComHab, DayHab, clinical services, Family Connect, which is parent workshops. We have openings in all our programs currently. If you would like more information about our programs or just simply would like an application in order to get the process started, please call our Project Connect information and referral line at our toll-free number, which is 877-827-2666, or you can email at projectconnect@adaptcommunitynetwork.org. I'll also put this information in the chat for everyone. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Wendy. Jill?
I finally remembered to unmute myself. Good morning. I just wanted to announce that AHRC has availability in our educational advocacy program. We can work with families, kids who are, need any support or help through the DOE process, IEP meetings, looking for appropriate placements, turning 5, a whole range of services and support. So either Kate or I will drop our information in the chat. I just have to grab that. Maybe Kate can do it more quickly, but thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Anyone else? If anyone else has any announcements, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you can make an announcement. Okay, we'll move on. We do have a guest presentation today. New York Alliance has a rather new resource for risk resilience, and they had contacted me to see if they could come and join us today and tell us about this new resource. So we have Lou Cavallari and Ryan Cox from New York Alliance. Ryan, do you want to share your screen? You should.
Yeah. Absolutely, Kathy, and thank you guys so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Louis and I, and I'll just do a brief synopsis up front. I mean, we basically created this website and this resource a while ago, and now Louis and I have been doing this roadshow, going around and trying to make everybody aware of it. And, you know, just really quick up front, it's completely free. It's, you know, it's a New York Alliance product, but you don't have to be a member of the New York Alliance. So what this presentation is really about is it's about getting the information out there. And, you know, if you're interested, great. You know, if not, so be it. You know, Louis and I just really want to get the information out there and let everybody know about this resource that we have. So that's kind of the goal of our presentation today. And I'm going to share a few slides, walk through a few slides. And if we have time, Kathy, I was hoping to go through just generally over the website really quick. But it shouldn't take too much time. So I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Ryan Cox from the New York Alliance. I'm the VP of Finance for the New York Alliance. I do these presentations with my partner and friend, Lou Cavallari. Lou, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning. I'm Lou Cavallari. He says, I'm a recent retiree from SOS, Services for the Underserved, and now work as a consultant on this grant with the New York Alliance with Brian and Kathy Verano, which has been, it's a really great resource. And I think this is really going to be good for folks. And so, and the fact that he said it's free, well, keep saying that it's free because that's really important to know in this day and age when you get something for free, and it's a really good resource. But I thank you for the opportunity, and it's good to see you all again and see familiar faces. It's, you know, it's been a while, but it feels really good. It's like coming back home.
and as I mentioned earlier, I mean, this is the final DD Council that Louis and I are heading.
Save the best for last.
Save the best for last. You stole my thunder, Louis. All right, so I'm going to share screen here. Louis, just let me know when it looks good. Let's go. Reading view.
Okay. Just can you make it bigger?
Yep, hold on, full screen.
Yeah.
How's that look, Louis?
It's still the same size, but it's, I mean, you can see it. It's good.
You can see that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so this is the resource that we created. It's a risk resilience toolkit, and it's basically what it is it's a grant that we got from New York Community Trust about 2 years ago, and we created this website. You know, and like Louis and I said earlier, I mean, it's free. It's for all members. You don't have to be a member of the New York Alliance, and you know, it's completely free for everyone. So really what we want to do is run through what the website is and then maybe show you a little bit about it. It's basically bifurcated into two parts. It's a resources page, and then it's what we call the business continuity plan. The resources page is exactly what it sounds like. It's a compendium of resources that we've collected over the past 2 or so years, a lot of COVID-related resources, also a lot of risk management, risk resilience resources. There's webinars, infographics, videos, the like, and it's really designed to, you know, help you if you need it. It's just a compendium of resources. You may not use all of them, you may use some of them, you may not be interested in any of them, but we really want to just direct you there, see if there's anything that might be of help for you or your agency. So naturally, you're going to ask, how do I get access to these resources? So the website is a password website. So, and the reason why we do that is because when we get to the business continuity plan, and this will make a little bit more sense as I move forward, the business continuity plan can be linked for you and for other people in your organization. So it ties your email address to other email addresses that are in your organization if you choose to do so. So that's why we collect we have an email and login so that you can connect your business continuity plans to each other. It takes a couple seconds. Honestly, it's really quick. You know, you just say who you are, who your agency is, you know, what your email address is, and create a simple password, and you'll have access to the website. And I'll show you a little bit about that there.
And Ryan qualifies this about setting up this username and password because some folks in the past have felt that there's some kind of commitment or something that you're signing on to that you may not want to be, you know, necessarily tied to. But this is really just to get you in there, and there's nothing else that happens after that, and you have no commitment to the alliance. So, and I just also want to mention that although the pandemic, the COVID was the impetus for this grant in terms of risk resilience, it's really gone beyond that in terms of any disruptive event or crisis or other resource for that matter, as you'll see later on. that people can access.
Everything okay? I'm at home in a meeting.
I think somebody's not on mute, talking to their son or daughter, maybe. Great point, Louis. And I think that's important to mention. And a lot of people have got their hands around COVID as we've been dealing with this through the last 2+ years. But it's really more than just COVID. It's risk management in the event of a flood, a fire, a power outage, you name it. You can customize your business continuity plan to the particular situation, which will make a little bit more sense as we get into it a little bit further. So as I talked about, the risk resilience toolkit is really bifurcated into 2 parts. There's the resources and then the business continuity plan. All of it is free. Louis and I get paid based on the amount of times we say free. So you'll hear that come through the presentation a little bit here. There's, as I mentioned, webinars, a quiz. That's important to mention up front. What we recommend everybody do if they're interested in learning about the risk resilience of their organization is to take the initial quiz. It kind of gives you a baseline about where you're at and maybe where you want to be in terms of risk resilience and the amount of measures that you have in place when it comes to managing risk within your organization. We've talked to people how they use the resources. Some of the resources, the webinars and videos can be used for training. In terms of reminders to staff, there are a number of infographics that are available on the resources website that agencies have put out, in their space. And then, this might be a little dated now, but there's also vaccination info and COVID readiness ways that people have used the website as well.
And Ryan, I'm not sure if you mentioned that multiple users within an organization or doesn't have to be an organization for that matter, can sign on to this. There's not a limit on how many of your folks can do this. And it's really, I think, a good idea in terms of helping to sort of, enhance the skills of your staff. To be able to give them access and give them a sense of what this is about. As we know, as we also develop future leaders, I think this is really a good opportunity to do that. And especially when Ryan referenced that quick 5-minute test is to see what other in your organization, their perceptions of what risk resilience readiness you have and what they see as perhaps some of the gaps. So I think it's a really good tool to strengthen that ability.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Louis talked about emerging leaders. I think we have some emerging leaders webinars coming up, right, Louis? Or
yes, we do.
So that's another component of the grant that we're working on outside of this tool that's really important as well. But just in terms of, I talked about the resources a little bit, the second component is the business continuity plan. The way that I think about the business continuity plan is it's all of the questions that you want to ask your organization in one place so that you can answer those questions internally with your team, put them into the tool on the website, and it basically creates a plan or creates a compendium of your answers and everything in one place. So a great example is we have a communications module, and the communications module basically breaks it down for the individual disaster or risk management situation that you're preparing for, and gives you all of the contact information for the respective people that you'll need to contact for, like fire, police, local hospitals, local public health departments, all that kind of in one place. And that's a simplification of what the business continuity plan does, but it's a very concrete example if you've never seen it before. So it really creates all of the resources that you're really looking to utilize and puts them in one place for your organization. That way you don't have to have everything all over the place in different spots. And the way that the business continuity plan works is it's kind of a step up system, right? There's the overview, which is very simple. You can answer it just by yourself, quite frankly. And the intermediate is a little bit more advanced. And this is where we kind of recommend that you incorporate more of the leadership team into it. And then the comprehensive business continuity plan is really difficult to do if you don't have the full team involved, because it's rather detailed, a lot of questions. It's probably takes, you know, a number of hours to complete and really think it through. Whereas the BCP overview, it can be done in 20-30 minutes. It's pretty simple. So it's really designed to set a baseline, and then if you want to go further, you have the ability to kind of step up and complete it further if you'd like. So, you know, just to kind of close this out, I mean, you know, we'll put the website in the chat once we're done here, and I'm hoping that we have enough time to kind of go through and just show you briefly, but we'll put the website in the chat so you can check it out. Take the risk assessment quiz that I had mentioned earlier, kind of see where your baseline is. The BCP overview is, you know, the general one that takes 20-30 minutes. If you want to complete that, you can get a sense for the questions that are going to be asked in the future, and it'll give you the opportunity to, you know, kind of get oriented to what a BCP is, and then you can decide if you want to go further or not. And like I said, you know, there's no harm in doing this. It's all free. It's just a resource for you if you want it. So, you know, at the very least, check out the resources that are on the page. You know, you might find something that might be useful to you or your organization, or, you know, just general knowledge that you were kind of interested in.
And just also, Ryan, I want to mention that if for anyone who's interested, Ryan and I do, you know, individual presentations. We will meet with your team if you'd like. We can go through the overview of the BCP and run through some of the questions and show you how that's done and how, you know, intuitive the process is in terms of the system itself, the software itself. So if you're interested, feel free to, and Ryan will put our information in the chat about contacting us, and it's right here as well about contacting us if you're interested in having us meet with your staff.
Great point, Louis. And there's one more component to this that I forgot to mention, is that we work with the Nonprofit Risk Management Center. They're out of Virginia to create this website and this tool. And basically, they do a lot of the back office information that we need, and they do some webinars for us as well. So, like, for instance, you know, if you were interested in doing a BCP and connecting, you know, 3 or 4 people to the same business continuity plan, all working on it together, I would contact the Nonprofit Risk Management Center, identify those 4 email addresses, and then merge them together so that everybody's kind of working on the same plan and rowing in the same direction there. So that's just another partner that we have.
And the center, right? And the center is also available. You can contact them directly. They're good technical assistants. They're really willing and able to help you out if you have any questions. And just so that you know, because this was another question that's come up previously, the New York Alliance does not have access to your information and any of the BCP that you put in there. It's held by the nonprofit center that Ryan just referenced, so we don't have access to your information, because I know some folks, you know, might become concerned with that. But so I just want you to know it's kept private.
Yeah, great point. Kathy, do we have a couple seconds that I can just show the website real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think it'll be really good to see.
Let me just pull up my. Louis, you can see my internet browser, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is the landing page here. You can see it's a New York Alliance website, but it really, you know, we just needed a place to put the website. So it's affiliated with the New York Alliance, but, you know, like I said, you don't have to be a New York Alliance member. It has really nothing to do with the New York Alliance. Once you get past the initial page, like I said, you're going to log in using your email and password. Mine's pre-populated, thanks to Google. And then once you're in here, you'll see that, as I mentioned before, it's 2 parts, right? You have your business continuity plan, and you have your risk resilience resources. I'll quickly click on the resources. And the most recent resource that we have is a cybersecurity. Taking next steps from awareness to action. It's a webinar that we created. There's also, I'll go down here, conversations in the field on vaccine hesitancy that might be relevant to you. There are a number of resources you can go through and search for them and filter based on what you're looking for, the particular type. You can go into searching and filtering by topic. You can also search by keyword. So there's about 30 overall resources on the resources page. So, I would just encourage you to create an email and password and check it out.
And you have access to the webinars, which we record through this grant. So all of the webinars are available to you, again, at no cost. And just so it would be interesting, for you to see as family members or as agency providers and your staff.
Mm-hmm. And then the business continuity plan. I'm going to go through this rather quickly. Like I mentioned, it's kind of a step-up system. You can do the overview, the intermediate, the comprehensive. I have already created all of these already. I did these internally just based on just working through it. So mine are kind of created already. Let's go back 1 second to my plan. So the BCP overview, you can see I've already completed that. I'm going to click on it. And this just gives you an example, very high level of the questions that are going to be asked. Remember that the overview
When
is
you have arts class?
Say that again. I don't think that was intended for me.
No.
Nope, but I'll keep going. So it's very high level. As you get further into the comprehensive and intermediate, it gets a little bit more complicated and the questions become a little bit more detailed. But basically, overall, you're going to decide who is going to, be completing the business continuity plan. We'll start with who's going to be involved, and this is a good, way to think about the format for overall for the BCP. There are a number of pre-filled in answers, but you can also at most junctures choose to create your own original message, choose to create your own original answer for every single question. So it'll give you a couple templates for generally how people have answered it in the past, but you also have the ability to customize at any point. So I'll save and continue that. The executive team is going to do it. You're going to create a purpose and a scope for your business continuity plan. We want to create a risk management strategy with minimal disruptions, especially during an emergency. And so this is where you would need to go in and figure out, what are my mission critical functions? What are my vital functions? What are my critical functions? And what things can I kind of put to the side and not worry about so much during these events? There's a page on scaling back and suspending operations. So what can I scale back during the emergency in order to maintain my processes moving forward? I put in, and this is a good point too. After every one of the questions, there's like a text box here or a Word document. That's where you're going to be entering the information. All that information is saved, and then it spits it back out to you at the end, either in a PDF or you can save it to the website so that all the information that you've entered is in one place. That's kind of the theme of the business continuity plan, is it takes all these questions that you've answered, all the resources that you've collected, and puts it together in one place so that it's simplified and that you have it in one spot. The way I answered this question was from the New York Alliance perspective. What have we scaled back? Well, we've gone to all virtual conferences from now on, for 2 years. Hopefully we're going to get back to in-person in the near future. And that's a great example of scaling back up. We're going to have to think about how we're going to do in-person conferences again, just to continue normal operations in a post-COVID, hopefully, scenario. A recovery support strategy. How am I going to handle that over the short term, the intermediate, and the long term? What are the, how do I scale things back over that period? A number of discussion topics and questions to discuss with the leadership team, if you choose to do that in the beginning. And that's essentially the overview. As I mentioned, this is very top of the trees, very basic. Once you get into the intermediate and the comprehensive, you get into very specific questions about very specific topics. So the comprehensive has a financial module, it has emergency preparedness module, an IT module, staffing, communications. Communications was the one that I mentioned earlier, where you're answering questions about contact information for a number of different resources that you'll need to contact in the event of an emergency situation that you can customize to whatever emergency situation there is, whether it's a blackout, a fire, a flood, etc. It doesn't have to be related to COVID, and that's kind of the overview of the BCP there. So that's kind of what Louis, and Louis, do you have anything that I missed there, you think?
No, I just, for those of us who are familiar with the disaster preparedness plans that we're required to do for each of our sites, this takes that even further in terms of the support services, the back office kinds of services. And I think what it does is not just manage the disruptive event, but helps you to get through it and then continue to thrive after it's done. And so to move forward. So that's why it's important. I know it's time, maybe time consuming, the other pieces of it, but the more detail that you have, the better off if in the event that you had, like we did with the pandemic. And it could be an event, a disruptive event that just affects your organization or your neighborhood, the state, the country, global, you know, it could be any one of those. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but it really helps, I think, to help and like who does what and when is really important to know when those things happen, like we just experienced. And what some of the organizations that we've done business continuity plans with have their teams have used their experience from the pandemic and the lockdown about what worked, what didn't work, and use that to help inform some of what they put into this plan. So, but we do really encourage just to, for all of you, not just providers, family members, just to go through the website and check it out. And any of your feedback about it and what you'd maybe like to see would also be helpful for us to even enhance it further.
Absolutely. And while you were talking, I was thinking one of the points that I forgot to mention was, you know, you have the ability to create a business continuity plan on a site-based level. So Kathy, AHRC, massive organization, many different sites, you could create a different business continuity plan or a miniature version of one for each individual site, because every site might be different and you might have different, things that you need to consider,
Right.
in one site versus another. So there's also that ability.
You could do it by departments, right? Exactly. So you customize it the way you want it.
Mm-hmm. So, I'll put the website in the chat. I'll put, Louis and my emails in the chat. And, if you want to contact us and you're interested, check it out, check out the resource. If you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer any questions and do a further tutorial if you'd like. So, that's that. And Kathy, we really appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you.
Giving us the time here. And, like I said, free resource, if you want to use it, great. We just want to be here to help if you're interested.
Thank you, Ryan and Lou. Yeah, if there's anything we've learned either from the pandemic or even prior to the pandemic, you just never know what emergency is going to happen and when it's going to happen. So the better prepared you are and the more you're thinking in advance and planning in advance, the better off we all will be. So thank you, great resource, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, any questions for Ryan or Lou?
Yeah, I of course have a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, of course. There you go.
Have you found that the providers have had something in place and just need more help now to get more effective because of the globalness of everything? I mean, for instance, the evacuation plans and all that stuff, that they're required to do.
Mm-hmm. What I found, this is my personal experience, and Louis, I'll let you answer too, is the website, the beauty of it is it puts everything in one place so that you have all of the resources, at your disposal in one spot. A lot of agencies, they'll have, a disaster plan here, a disaster plan there, contact information here, contact information there. This is all encompassing within one website. You can print out everything into PDFs. And you can also store it in the cloud on the website if you choose to do so. So it really, I think, Ellie, in short, it brings it all together in one spot. That's what I think the beauty of it is.
I would encourage you to tell providers when they create these to actually share them with whatever comes out of it with the families, and because I'm clueless,
Mm-hmm.
and not
But
for
Ellie,
not asking, so.
You raise a good point, because this is the providers we did meet with. Some thought they had these plans that really worked, and they found one that when it was tested during
Right.
such a significant event like the pandemic and the lockdown, it wasn't working, and that this BCP helped them to fill in some of those gaps. They may have not had to start from scratch, as to your point, is that they just needed to enhance it, to even broaden it a little bit more. Like I said, like sometimes it may be more difficult, but like the details, even like contact information, like on the communication part, and to always make sure that you have periodic reviews of that, because people's information changes. So if you have information from, a year ago, 2 years ago, when it comes to the disruptive event, you may not be able to find that person because they're no longer at that number. So
Right.
things like that really make you think about and sort of help you to process that. But yes, that did happen, to your point.
And of course, I hope you share this with OPW so that when they put in a regulation that you have to do something, that you can say, okay, here it is,
Well, they've been on the call on all the presentations to
Good.
the DD Council, so yeah, so they're aware of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question. Great question.
Any other questions for Ryan or Lou?
Well, if you think of anything in the future,
Yeah.
I'll put our emails in the chat, and feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Yes.
Thanks again. It was great to
Thank you
see
very
you.
much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the city updates, and Gavin could not make it today. However, I do have his report, so I'd like to read that into the meeting. As far as COVID-19 alert, the current COVID-19 alert level in New York City remains low, which means that COVID-19 is spreading at low levels in the community. There are COVID treatment options available for people who have tested positive for COVID-19, and they may be able to receive outpatient treatment to help reduce COVID-19 symptoms and avoid hospitalization. Treatment usually works best if you begin it soon after you start feeling symptoms, so it is important to get tested right away. And there are currently 2 types of treatments for people with mild to moderate COVID-19. One is the monoclonal antibody treatment, which is a one-time IV or injection to help give you antibody protection while your body works to produce its own antibodies. And this treatment is covered by Medicaid and Medicare at no cost. If you have private insurance, it may be covered, but you do need to check with your insurance provider and health plan. The other treatment is an oral antiviral pill, and these pills are taken daily for 5 days to help stop the virus from replicating. And it reduces the amount of virus in your body. And the FDA has currently authorized 2 pills to treat COVID-19, Paxlovid and Molnupiravir. Good guess on that one. Both of these treatments are currently free and available at no cost. There's also an update on second booster shots, and at least one vaccine booster shot is currently recommended for everyone 12 and older who is vaccinated. And a second booster shot is now available for people who are 50 and older, people who are 12 to 49 who are moderately or severely immunocompromised, and people who are 18 to 49 and received a primary and booster dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. If you are eligible, you can get your second booster shot 4 months after you received your first booster. And the second booster must be either the Pfizer or Moderna. So that was Gavin's report. And if you have any questions on that, just let me know and I will forward the questions on to Gavin. We'll move on to state news and state update. James?
Hey there. Good morning, everyone. I'll give a few couple updates, and then I was going to go over our functional org chart. I don't know, Kathy, if there's a way for me to share my screen or not, but that if not, I can just send it. So, but I'll start with my general updates. So, you know, one of the areas of interest for Commissioner Neifeld is to establish open communication with a direct care support workforce. To that end, one of the things that she's going to be doing is having a town hall meeting on April 28th from 11:30 to 12:30. I believe that there will be more information on how to join on our agency website. But the event will also be recorded in case you cannot attend, and the recording will be placed on our internet site. So you can look forward to that. If you have any questions that you want to submit in advance, I will put the link in the chat where you can send your comments and questions.
I'm sorry, James, what's the title of the town hall?
It's a direct care workforce. It's the DSP town hall event is the title. Okay, and so updates regarding the American Rescue Plan, and more specifically the FMAP funds that were being used to help support direct care staff. The funds were transferred to providers on March 23rd, and there's additional payments that also went out on March 30th, and then the remaining COVID payments related to the Heroes bonus, which is like a longevity bonus, will come out sometime after April 1st. Obviously, we're past that now, so that will be coming out soon. I know we've given updates on the 507 plan many times in the last 6 to 12 months, but just a revised timeline or an updated timeline. So the next steps would include this month, the draft will be reduced for public input. In June, we'll hold 2 virtual statewide public hearings to hear comments. And then in the summer, we'll hold regional in-person forums to collect additional information. So we did previously did some in-person regional forums, virtual regional forums, but we will be doing another round on the draft sometime this summer. I think we may have covered this in the last meeting, but just again to highlight that on March 10th, the housing subsidy ADM was released that's related to what we used to call ISS, that subsidize subsidies for apartments for individuals to live on their own. So there's a lot more information and guidance in terms of, not only application, but kind of the roles and responsibilities of the care manager, the rent subsidy agency, care managers. We are, putting greater emphasis on the quality assurance checklists that ensure that the apartments that the individuals would be residing in are safe and meet all of the, safety standards. So, between the ISS or the rent subsidy provider and the care manager, they would be submitting those checklists and to confirm that, again, the individual's apartments are safe. Okay, so those are my general updates. Kathleen.
You should have the ability to share your screen at this point, James.
Okay, I'm just looking at let me see. I can figure this out. I'm going to the 3 dots. view. Yeah, I'm looking at all the different features here, and I'm not seeing share my screen as an option.
You
So
should
I
have
may
on
have to
the bottom.
the bottom.
Big
Is that where
green
the-
button.
Oh, I see. Where it says share screen. All right. Okay.
You know, just
So-
when we all get this figured out, we'll be back in person.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the assistance. All right. So you can see the org chart here, right?
Yes.
Okay, with Delia's name at the top. Okay. All right. So this is just, so I think we mentioned in the past that we've moved towards regionalizing all of our functions. So that basically, just to reiterate, I think we covered this before, but I'll just repeat that, rather than each borough have 5 separate teams that all do the same thing, we actually have region-wide teams now. And the idea behind that is that, certainly there's greater accountability. There's an opportunity for greater consistency, greater quality. So we're really, as we've transitioned to these functional teams, we're really starting to take well, not starting, but we have been for a while, taking a look at all of the different operations, ensuring that their consistency with best practices and statewide standards. We've developed various tracking systems and streamlined the way we operate. So there's a lot more efficiency across the 5 boroughs. So these are this is a contact information for kind of the deputy directors, and then what we call the CSAs, which are basically each CSA resides in one of the boroughs, but they have responsibility across the 5 boroughs, and each of these supervisors are responsible for a particular functional team. So if we scroll down here, and I'll send this out to you. So we have, in capacity management, which is some people know as CROW, which is access to residential placement. We have a regional supervisor, and then we have, 2 regional supervisors. We have a residential school transition coordinator who is Sam, and she's one of the CSAs. We have a crisis forensics unit, and Kathy, in any future meeting, if you want us to do a more in-depth presentation on any of these groups, we can certainly do that. We have our crisis team with the unit director, the assistant director, who happens to oversee CSIDD. We also have a specialty unit and hospital community supervisor, Joanne Thigpen. She recently has transitioned into this role. We have, children's waiver, local school transition. We have the staff here. Just going through this other column here, Lucy O'Mazey oversees front door waiver CCO. So she's kind of the supervisor overseeing the entire unit. And then we have additional region-wide supervisors, Chris Grova for front door, waiver, CCO, supervisors. We have eligibility, self-direction. Some you can all read here, but I'm just going through these real quick. Development is essentially that unit oversees all the capital improvement projects or the new development projects. So if an agency is given an award to develop a new home, for example, they would work closely with the development unit to, go through the steps that are required to, from beginning to end, to build that home and to open that program. We have Auspice Changes, so that's when one agency has determined that they want to move their programs to another agency, so that we have a person that helps to coordinate that. We have our fiscal unit, Willowbrook PASSAR, which is related to our nursing staff that do assessments for individuals that reside in or live in a nursing home temporarily. And they would be doing an assessment to determine their level of care that's needed and if they can transition back into the community. And then we have family support. So we would say that generally work with your care managers, assuming you have one, to address any issues or concerns that you have. But certainly if you feel like things are getting stuck, if you're feeling like there's an issue that has not been resolved, you can also reach out to the supervisor directly.
Would you believe somebody in Trinidad sent me a WhatsApp now about the shooting? Oh my goodness.
So does anyone have any questions? I'll send this to you, Kathy. If I can't put it into the chat, I'll send it to you.
That would be great. And then we'll have it posted on the council website as well.
Okay, great. All right. And that concludes my updates. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for James or OPWDD? Thanks again, James.
Sorry,
I-
Kathy, do you mind if I ask one?
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Wow, what an org chart, so helpful. There's been an org chart shaped hole in my life for a few years, so I can't wait to get that. I just wanted to know, I know that self-direction has come up so much, and I was just hoping we could have more. Sorry. Hoping that we could have another conversation and some scheduled conversations about self-direction and our programs, some facilitated conversations around the issues that we're all having. I think I heard the commissioner mention that, but just wanted to put that in your ear.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll also give that feedback to our self-direction supervisors. But we'd be happy to participate in a discussion. Just you can reach out to us.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. Moving on to IEC update, Chris.
Hi, everybody. So I'm gonna just cover some of the education issues. So in regard to the final budget for education, there's been some confusion in regards to what actually happened. Some parents emailed me over the weekend. They thought they were really happy that we got all these increases for the next 5 or 6 years for our schools. So I hate to sort of give the negative perception on that, but there is no increases. The only increase that we have is the 11% that the governor promised to our schools for 22-23. After that, there's no guarantee of increases because the governor vetoed that tuition parity bill. Each year, we're still going to have to fight to get increases for our schools. In regard to what we specifically asked for in the budget, we had asked for a freeze to the rate reconciliation that would give providers more opportunity to spend the 11% over a period of time. That was rejected. That was not in the final budget. We had asked for some cost screen measures to address the under-enrollment issues that many of our schools are facing, as well as their inability to hire staff. That was not included in the final budget, and nor was our request for programs that had to file a tuition waiver. If they had to file a tuition waiver for services, meaning they weren't getting enough money to pay for the education of the children, they file a waiver. When they file that waiver, the school's rate is frozen and they don't get any increases from that point on. We asked for the interim plus rates to be included in the final budget. They were not. So overall, we're not very happy with what the results were for education outside of the 11% for the schools. What was included as a side agreement, our understanding is that they are going to allow schools to retain surplus money up to 11%. The way reconciliation works, and I'm just giving you an overview, this is really complicated, but if a school isn't able to spend all of the money that they get in tuition for 1 year, the state recoups that money back. And one of the real problems right now is many of our schools are understaffed. They can't hire teachers, teacher assistants, clinicians. Because they can't hire those people, they're not spending their full tuition rates. That money gets recouped back and it affects future tuition rates. So in essence, even if all the teachers came tomorrow, some of our schools would not have the money now because their budget was lower to be able to pay for those teachers. What the final budget is proposing is allowing providers to hold on to 11% surplus. Right now, they have no ability to hang on to any surplus at all for preschool. School age programs can hold onto an amount of up to 4% total. That's going to be changed to 11%. Then that number gets lowered. So for the first 2 years, they can hold on to 11%. Then it goes down to 8%. Then the surplus goes down to 5%. And then by 2027, 28, it goes down to 2%. That all looks good. However, it's contingent upon the provider's ability to have a surplus. Right now, most of our providers don't have surpluses. They're losing money. And we're not totally sure what this looks like. So we have made inquiries to the state education department, as well as Division of Budget and others, to try to get some clarification about what all this means. Our goal is to ensure that the money that the governor has committed gets to the children in our schools. But the reality is, because programs are losing a lot of money right now, they may not be able to use that 11% to benefit the kids. It may be having to pay for unreimbursed expenses and other things. So we're really trying to figure out what this means for the provider community. And hopefully we will have some more answers in a week or so from some of the government people who were involved in making this compromise. This was not anything that was shared with any of the advocacy groups or providers. So we weren't really consulted on this compromise of the ability to retain surpluses. So we are concerned about this, and whether or not providers will really be able to benefit from the 11%, which was what our intent was in the budget request that we made, and all the advocacy that we tried to do. If they would have just frozen rate reconciliation, there would be no issue here. But because they didn't, we're concerned that providers may not have a lot of money to put into a surplus. The other information I just wanted to share is in regards to the mask mandate. If anyone had any questions, in New York City, if children are under the age of 5, they must continue to wear a mask if they can tolerate it. And all the staff that work with children under 5 have to continue to wear a mask. Right now, that's still in place. And our 4410 preschools are following that specific rule at the moment. There is some question about whether or not they will eventually lift it, but with the variant that now has increased rates, it's questionable whether or not they will remove that mandate anytime soon. The logic behind it, for anyone who wants to know, is because children under 5 are unable to be vaccinated. And so they felt very strongly that they still need to make sure that they can protect those children. And then the only other real piece that I think is important just to be aware of, there still is a very high level of increased need for preschool special education seats for children who need class sizes of 8 and class sizes of 6. Those programs right now are in demand in certain parts of the city. And many children, our understanding is, who left early intervention right now are unable to be served in preschool special education programs. One of the major reasons for that is our schools have no teachers. And if you don't have teachers and you don't have staff, you can't open classrooms. They have classrooms that currently they have the authorization to open, but they're closed because they don't have staff. And programs are just not being paid enough for that. In New York City, the early childhood salary parity agreement that was put in place for early childhood teachers to pay them the same starting salary as teachers in New York City's public schools do not apply. Our schools are excluded. So our 4410 teachers are still excluded from that salary parity agreement. We have been fighting to get our teachers included because we do think that will help in terms of recruitment for teachers in our schools in the city and hopefully address some of the need for these small classes. It's important to keep in mind that children who need class sizes of 6s and 8s in preschool special education programs are children with very high levels of need. Those children are not being educated right now. New York City's estimate is that they needed more than 900 preschool special education seats, and they don't have them. We don't know what the numbers are children sitting at home, but we know that there are children that are not receiving those services because our schools are getting calls all the time asking if they have open seats for children who need that level of service. Many of those children are children on the autism spectrum. And so we are hoping that some things can be done in the final city budget to give that salary parity agreement. And we're hoping that our schools will be able to use the 11% to help with recruitment. But when you're talking about salary disparities of more than $25,000 and $30,000 a year between what public schools pay and our schools can pay, it's a very difficult situation for the schools. And the other really important point is that unless the New York City Council includes it in the final budget, even with whatever enhancements the New York City Department of Education may offer to our schools, they are not going to address the salary disparity to the point that it's going to make our schools competitive. And our schools are still losing teachers every single day. I spoke to an administrator yesterday who lost 2 more speech therapists to the Department of Ed. So they continue to take away staff from our schools. And the children who are being hurt are New York City's public school children. And it really is very distressing that they continue to lose staff. And our ability to recruit and retain staff is becoming more and more difficult each day. And more children are not being taught by certified teachers. So we really are going to fight very hard to see if we can get the salary parity agreement this year. And then the last thing I'll just mention, there has been some issues in regards to preschool children who have been offered placements in some of the 4410 preschool programs. Parents are being told they can't tour a school. They don't have a right to visit. There's a lot of mixed messages right now going on. Let me just clarify one clear point. Parents have a right under due process in New York State regulations and guidance that they have a right to have input into the decision-making process for the child's placement. As a parent, I cannot understand how you can have any ability to make an informed decision about whether or not a placement is going to meet your child's needs unless you visit that preschool placement. And so I would absolutely advise you to insist on that placement. What our schools have been told is we are not allowed to give parents any feedback or input regarding that placement offer. We can't tell a parent if it's appropriate or not. Our schools have been told they cannot do that. But I encourage you, if you work with parents, to tell parents that they have a right to visit that preschool program. They should look at it. They should see if it's an appropriate placement and if it's going to meet their child's needs. We have very serious concerns about some of what's going on in regards to some of this stuff. We also have concerns about the Turning 5 process. Our preschools are not being invited to the meetings again. And parents are not being given a lot of notice in regard to some of the meetings. So we're paying attention to some of these things again. We had thought that some of this stuff had been, honestly, had been taken care of, had been resolved. And now we're finding that some of the issues and concerns that we had fought for a number of years ago are now concerns again for parents. So anyone who's working with parents of young children, if there are issues, I advise you to make sure that you notify preschool administrators or the Turning 5 at schools.nyc.gov email box for children who are going into kindergarten. don't know if anybody has any questions about any of this.
Jackie?
No, okay. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Couldn't figure out how to unmute. No
Oh,
surprise.
sure.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
I think your word distressing is probably even an understatement, having had a son who went through all those programs and lost at least 4 teachers to the Department of Education in the course of his time there. I have 2 questions. One, who is providing the message that parents don't have a right to look at schools or participate? Like, what end of the government, the state, the city is doing that?
We're hearing from some of the preschool administrators are telling parents that they really are not allowed to visit schools until they have an IEP meeting and they get a placement offer. I know parents who have gone out and visited programs prior to the IEP meeting and tried to make a decision about which program they felt comfortable sending their child to. I mean, we're talking about 3 and 4-year-olds. I'd like any parent to tell me that you would just place your child in a program at 3 or 4 without visiting it. So some of it, I'm trying to be reasonable in terms of my thoughts about this, but it angers me to no end that is something that's going on. And I'm concerned about parents' rights at this point, honestly, in regard to some of this.
Well, I think the parents' rights are 100% being declined because there's not a Head Start or a daycare or a preschool in the city that you don't have to go look at and meet your child and decide if it's right for. So I guess the only other thing I have to say is if there's anything that we as parents and council members can do, whether it's a writing campaign, that please let us know.
Sure, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, do you have any updates on the OPW side of the budget?
I don't have anything specific. I'm sorry. Most of my time has been spent on the education stuff. So I do apologize on that.
That's okay. Just to let people know, the budget was passed on, I believe, Saturday morning, officially passed the New York State budget. And on the OPWDD side, there is a 5.4% cost of living increase that has been approved as part of that budget. In addition, there are $3,000 up to $3,000 incentives for staff. And a lot of who that applies to is still being worked out and ironed out. There are a whole list of titles and job titles that it does apply to. Absolutely includes direct support and clinicians. What we're not so clear about at this point is the support staff and the CFR Code 100 series, whether it applies to that. But again, there's still some fine, that small print fine reading that still needs to be done and worked out and ironed out to see exactly what titles it will apply to. But the $3,000 bonuses, one-time bonuses, were included in the budget as well. There's also inclusion of $2 million state fund, which with the federal match is $4 million to address the residential needs for people living with aging caregivers. So that is also included in the budget. Again, those are the highlights. I know Chris went into detail on the education side. And again, more information will be coming out once the budget is analyzed by OPWDD and they come up with a plan to implement these increases. Any other questions on state update? Just before we go on to the committee reports, I'm sure many people have gotten alerts on their phones. If you did not, just to let you know that there has unfortunately been a significant police incident in Brooklyn at the 36th Street subway station between 4th and 5th Avenues with an active shooter. A number of people have been shot, and the alert was to avoid the area. So anybody in that area or traveling in that area, please avoid it and be safe out there. On to committee reports. The Family Support Service Advisory Council, Mary or Jackie?
Got it this time. So we have a meeting coming up tomorrow. And Andrew was kind enough to put it in the chat because we all know that I would never be able to figure out how to do that. Basically, what we're trying to do is there's a lot of money left with the agencies for family reimbursement, and we're trying to make a big push for this last quarter for families to spend it. So please tell anybody and everybody, we're going to have 9 representatives from the agency speaking about family reimbursement, and we're going to provide applications for all those agencies and talk a little bit about the fact that things are going to change a lot starting July 1st and what people can expect from those changes.
Thanks, Jackie. Transition, Andrew or David?
Good morning, everybody. So April is our transition month, and a number of individual adult service providers have been hosting presentations about their services that are available. And there are still quite a few more of those presentations to go, which run through the end of the month. We will leave a flyer in the chat with the details for those presentations, all of which are being held virtually. Please share that information for anybody who is searching for adult service options, transition age people in particular.
Thanks, David. The Family and Provider Information Committee, Yesenia and Louisa had to leave a little bit early today, but they did have a meeting on March 16th, which was very well attended. And the topic was future planning, which was presented by Paola Martinez-Boone from New York Lawyers. I see you there, Paola. It was a great presentation, very informative, and extremely well attended. Well over 100 people attended, so it was great to see that number of people get the information and benefit from that resource. The Family and Provider Committee is also currently working on updating the Family Support Directory, and emails have gone out to the agencies for updates. Many have answered, many have not. So if you have not answered, please provide your updates so that we can get this directory updated. It's, I want to say, the last time we had it was December 2019. So we're absolutely in need of some updates, and I'm sure there are programs and supports that may not be offered any longer, and there may be new ones that have popped up and arisen. So make sure that you have responded to that email. We will be sending out reminder emails in the next week or so. So please, look out for that as well. Also, we are looking to have the directory translated to Spanish this year. So we are looking to have that done. If anybody knows, we're absolutely willing and able to pay for this. So if anyone is aware of a translation service that can translate a directory type document, please let me know. We have a couple of leads and we'll follow up on those. But if you've used a resource in the past, I did recommend definitely send that on. And legislative update, Jim.
Just some comments, I guess, basically on the budget. The whole budget was $220 billion. Wow. The legislature added on $4 billion this year, about 2% extra, a lot more than they usually do. But it's just indicative that every year, no matter what the governor puts out as a balanced budget, the legislature says, not quite, let's tweak this. There's always something that we can get from them if needed. And I think we should just keep that in mind for the years to come. The 5.4% increase was based on inflation of last July. We're hoping that that is an indicator that next year's budget will also be based on the cost of living increase based on this coming July, which looks like it's going to be something close to 8%. If so, that would be a marked change from the neglect of the last 10 years, and much appreciated. It doesn't make up for it, but at least going forward, we'll not be able to exactly keep up, but because we always lag a little behind, but at least we will stop falling so far behind that it just feels impossible at points. The nurses, a nurse person who goes to nursing school, he or she gets out and has a large debt. Now, if they work in our field, they can have some of that, or even up to all of that, forgiven over a period of time. That was a nice add-on that we certainly appreciate. EI didn't get much. I think 1% increase or something of that sort, in a reversal of another percent or something. Again, that's another field that's been neglected. It must have had, at least people think that it had, a very high rate way back at the beginning, because the rate has barely increased over 30 years. So those just thoughts on it. Doesn't help anybody. It just makes me feel better to let people know.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, it's actually the first time in many years that, although we did not get everything we asked for, and we know we still have significant work on the education side, at least on the OPWDD and the Medicaid side, we haven't been this successful in many years. And that is in large part due to the ongoing advocacy and the nonstop, relentless efforts of many people in this group, in this meeting. So thank you all for the continued advocacy and the continued push to get that done. Lastly, as we mentioned last month, we do have elections coming up this year. So we do have a nominating committee chaired by Margaret Puddington. Do you have any update, Margaret?
I do. You want me to give it now, or do you want me to give it next month?
Next month is absolutely fine.
Well, I could do it either way. The election, the voting will take place at the June meeting. The nominations committee has completed its work. We are nominating a slate, and the slate is because we think that all of the officers, the current officers, have done such a wonderful job. We were hoping that they would be willing to continue, and they are. So we are nominating for Chair Kathy Kelly, for Agency Vice Chair Carol Lincoln, for Parent Vice Chair Ellie Rufer, for Secretary Alana Katz, and for Treasurer Jesse Backey. People who are interested in running for any of these positions are free to do so. If you would be so kind as to let me know. That would make for an organized process. But you still can pop up at the last minute and nominate yourself for someone else. And it will all be dealt with in the election in June.
And maybe some of us will step aside if somebody steps up. You never know.
You never know.
Not a chance.
Thank you, Margaret. And I have my work cut out in the next month or so to figure out how to do this election virtually. But we'll work that out. So.
I thought you were going to start your campaign, like just to make sure you get voted in. It wasn't.
Oh, no. I would have to find a campaign manager. Okay, any other new business, questions, comments, concerns? Then our next meeting will be May 17th, and it will again be virtual. I think we are all zoomed out at this point, but we absolutely will be looking to at least do some hybrid meetings, hopefully come the fall. I had actually had a room here at AHRC reserved for this past September and October, and then that kind of just got blown out of the water. So I'm still hoping we can start to get back to seeing each other, at least in person, and seeing people in 3 dimensions and seeing how tall or how short people are. But no, not how wide. But anyway, it's, our next meeting will be virtual as well as will be our June meeting. It'll be the same link. But we'll get some reminders out before then. So thank you all, and please be safe out there.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Stay well, everybody. Stay well.
You too.
Ta-ta.